You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Beast Over Burden. This is powered by Barbell Logic. I'm your host, Nikki Sims. With me is Andrew Jackson.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How's training?
That's good. Hit a good deadlift this week, which I was stoked about considering how inconsistent my deadlift training is with all of my wonderful travel, but it went well. So I was happy with it.
Seems like you are crushing it both in terms of lifting and your body composition preferences.
All over the place, straight crushing. I don't know. I've been buried in cold weather clothing for the last week. I have no idea what my body looks like. Just kidding.
All right. Well,
No.
Fair enough. But you did flash abs on Instagram like
That's true.
3 days ago.
There was a day when I had some abs, and there were a few days, and like I said in my post is I don't have abs every single day unless I'm in a consistent caloric deficit or I'm maintaining at something that's probably a deficit. But I was pleasantly surprised on that day because we had just gotten back pretty much from Thanksgiving. We've done many weeks of travel. I've been aware of what I'm eating, but I haven't been saying no to many things. So I'll put it that way. But it feels good.
And that's on the back end of, you're looking at, we've really been on the road for like 4 months off and on pretty freaking consistently.
Yeah. I think it was starting at the beginning of August. We had like 11 trips in 9 weeks. So that's tough for eating. It's tough for training. And I think it's turned out all right, which I'm happy about because it's just all been really fun. Like it's all fun. I just get to eat. I get to have wines. I get to train. I get to go to spin. And I feel pretty spoiled.
It's interesting to me because I think you have achieved something that I've been thinking about lately a lot that I'll call physical freedom. And this idea came to me recently because I've been thinking a lot about financial freedom. And I've got this group chat where we're constantly arguing about financial freedom type things, or at least I feel like I'm arguing about it. I've been following this guy, Jim Chong. He's this Canadian investor who puts out a bunch of content on social media. And his big emphasis is that financial freedom is it's just a goal that really enables you to stop trading your time for money. And a lot of it, it's nothing groundbreaking, but he just puts it all together, I think, in a really coherent way that is easy to digest. The first of which is pretty common sense that you want to maintain your expenses below your income, your means, which enables you to then prioritize investing first, having emergency savings, and then you have whatever's left over to cover costs and things that you want to do for fun. And what strikes me about the financial freedom model, or at least the models that he's talking about, a lot of them are rules of thumb about how much different expenses should be in your life and how to think about what's an expense versus, or what's a liability versus an asset. And what struck me is that it requires a certain amount of discipline. And of course, we've talked about YNAB before, which in my mind is a tool for facilitating financial discipline that enables you to prioritize things, give every job $1, and in a sense, work towards financial freedom. The stuff that Jim Chong talks about is maybe a little bit higher order level of thinking about how to prioritize the jobs you want to give your dollars, is maybe how I'd put it. But once you've got financial freedom, which I would define as the point at which you are no longer trading your time, you no longer have to trade your time for money in order to sustain your lifestyle, or at least you don't have to trade your time for something you don't want to be doing. in order to sustain your lifestyle.
Which is working. It's like having a job. Yeah.
Having a job. Yeah. I'm trading my time for money right now, but I would argue that I achieved some level of financial freedom. I wouldn't say total financial freedom, but a huge step years ago, which was based on accumulating a lot of, financial habits, because I got to a point where my liabilities were low enough, my assets were high enough that I could take a risk to work at Barbell Logic rather than continue down the corporate job that I didn't want to do anymore, take a huge pay cut because I had basically mitigated the amount of risk that I had in the form of liabilities. And I was thinking about a lot of our conversations around nutrition and strength training. And it sort of, this light bulb moment went off that what I think we are really striving for as a objective, as a end state goal for both strength and nutrition is what I'm calling physical freedom.
I love this.
And similar to financial freedom, where once you have it, yes, you need to maintain a certain level of discipline in order to be financially free. But the whole point is to have freedom to do what you want with your money and your time. And the same is true with physical freedom. Yes, there are a certain level of discipline, certain amount of discipline and habits that are required in order to be physically free. But the point isn't to white knuckle with perfect execution all the time in order to maintain six-pack abs and a 600-pound deadlift and 100% compliance with your training and maximal strength at all costs so that you can, say that you do those things. The whole point is to be free to do what the heck you want with your body and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a big difference for a long time, like a sustainable,
for the rest of your life.
Forever. Yeah.
And I find that to be a really useful mental model because for much of my training, I was very focused on maximizing strength. And I know we have many of our coaches who operated under a strength is the most important thing, whether you like it or not, mental model, which I think is close. And it's powerful because it's simple and it's polarizing and it can focus you very clearly on one metric of strength as measured by force you can produce on an external object. But it's not a metric that is going to be sustainable or good for you on the long haul, or more importantly, it will not enable physical freedom. The absence of strength, having zero strength, bad.
So yeah, paint the picture of what a person might feel like, what their day is like. If they're 100% strength, this is the only thing that matters. I have all my eggs in this basket. What is that like for a person?
The types of decisions that are made when somebody has that metric as the end all be all, this is the most important thing. We see time and time again, they deprioritize things that benefit their overall health and quality of life, because we've seen examples where people will not do conditioning because they don't want to miss their next 5-pound increment. We see people force feeding themselves to a point of being significantly overweight. And I'll just speak for myself. I did these things. Let me just start over. I'm not going to accuse anybody of doing anything. I will tell you what I did. I did not prioritize conditioning, which was detrimental to my overall health. I overate. I gained an excessive amount of body weight, which was detrimental to my overall health. And it reduced my physical freedom. I was not able to do and enjoy the things with my body that I love. I want to be able to go skiing. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to play with my daughter. I want to be able to go up a set of stairs without huffing and puffing. I want to be able to go outside on a warm day without feeling like I'm drenched in sweat all day long. Because I can remember it was 72 degrees and I'm out for a walk when I was 285, almost 290 pounds. And it felt like I was in an oven.
Oh man, it sounds so uncomfortable.
Because I'm wearing like 50 pounds of body fat.
Meat sweater.
Now look, if your goal is to go set powerlifting world records and that's your jam, great, good on you. Just like we've talked about with all of our other advice and nutrition coaching and things like that. Like if you've got a very focused, single-minded goal, have at it, Haas.
Yeah.
But I don't think pursuing a metric like strength as measured by weight on the bar is as useful a objective or target as physical freedom. Well, I would ask you to describe how you have been training this year. To me, hits the nail on the head with physical freedom. I think this year, just kind of watching your training, both in terms of what you're doing with barbells, with accessories, with spin class, with your nutrition, with enjoying life, with travel, like, how would you describe your approach to training right now? Because to me, it seems like, and you're still maintaining abs occasionally when you want, you cut when you want, you bulk when you want, like you're doing everything you want with your body and enjoying it while enjoying your food and still able to lift heavy and have abs. I mean, that sure does sound like physical freedom to me.
It's ridiculous. It's redonkulous.
But there was a time in your life where you didn't do things outside the gym because you were worried about affecting your weights, right?
Yeah. And I was even sabotaging myself in the gym because I would do too much. We've talked about that many times where I would overtrain.
Other end of the spectrum, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's working now is me and my coach, we use so many different tools to train my muscles. We use lots of different equipment, which means if my back doesn't feel good with the barbell squat, let's try the transformer bar squat. Let's do leg presses. Let's do belt squat. That's all wonderful. Let's not be so rigid in the deadlift programming that we're fighting for another 5 pounds every week. Like my deadlift programming is I go on a trip. I don't like to deadlift when I travel at weights that are like really heavy. I don't like to bring a belt with me anymore when I travel. So we usually do like a 5x5 at 225. So I might do that while I travel, or I might not deadlift when I travel. When I come back, I do 5x5 at 225. And then the next week, I work up to a heavy triple. And then I might work up to a heavy single the week after that with some volume back-offs. And it's that. Like one time a week, I'm deadlifting. And it's not rigid. Like I have a lighter day that's high volume, and then I see what's in the tank for intensity days. And those intensity days, my heavy triple has been barely 315. The other day it was 340. And so open-mindedness is the overall summary of that. Like I want to be able to work hard. And be able to is a very important part of that phrase. And what that means is I need to fuel myself. So I need to eat protein. I need to eat carbs. I need to be considerate that I'm going into training session fueled. And I need to allow recovery. And eating is a huge part of that. So being recovered also means that there is the RPE guide on deadlift. So if my coach said, pull 3x3 at 365, and that's too heavy on that day, and I grind out a really ugly set of 2 at 365, I won't be recovered for the next time I get to deadlift, which means I don't get to train how I want to. I'll feel poorly. So I think open-mindedness, knowing that you can train your muscles in many ways using different machines, doing higher rep where you can still be challenged in many domains, like different rep schemes, pauses, tempos, and not being so rigid about, if there's not a barbell chalk, I'm out. I'm not going to train, because then we get to go to the gym when we travel. And that's usually a really fun thing to do. But that's part of it. And then I love, like we were listening to the Dr. Stacy Sims interview on Huberman, and I really like how she framed her comments around nutrition in that you have to create the environment in which your body feels safe to grow muscle and protect lean body mass. And I think I've been intuitively doing that for a while. I like to train fed. And I remember being at a spin class and looking around at all these like skinny women who just looked like they weren't enjoying themselves being skinny. Like they couldn't just like go all out in a spin class. And I like to go to spin class fed because it just means I have fun. I'm not trying to go there and burn 600 calories. That's not the point of me going there. That'll happen if I'm recovered enough, if I have fun, whatever. But like, I don't like feeling unable to work out because of my nutrition choices, because I just enjoy working out so much. So it's kind of a nice loop of set myself up for success, and then I just keep being successful because I like create these opportunities to feel good and then to recover, knowing that there will be more and more and more.
So when I hear that, there's a few things that stand out. One is that you have a very clear intention for what each element of your training is doing. If I were to call, the elements of what I think are the elements of physical freedom, thinking out loud a little bit here. There's one major bucket of stress, I would say, that's comprised of all the things that you're doing to stimulate adaptation to either strength or cardiovascular systems. So we're using barbells to get stronger, build muscle mass. We're doing either steady state or high intensity conditioning work to build cardiovascular adaptation. And then there's recovery elements, which are predominantly sleep and nutrition. You could argue there's supplementation in there. There's other kind of environmental factors that impact your hormones.
Like creatine?
Creatine's in there, sure. But I'm talking like stress, like external stress is going to affect your recovery, cortisol levels, things like that. But the controllable levers that you can pull are predominantly going to be sleep and nutrition, maybe hydration, stuff like that. And you have a very clear sense of the purpose of each of those elements of your training. You know why you're doing your strength training. You've been doing this long enough in a disciplined manner that you understand how your body responds to that stress and when to push or when to kind of hold back. Similar with conditioning.
And I want to add, because I think it's important to what you're saying, like one goal of my training is to make my legs and like glutes bigger. So there is a focus for growth. And I think if that wasn't in the equation, then we might just do more. There would be more variety. But right now, things are targeted to growth. So I think that's important to know that we are striving for change in my programming, not just maintenance.
Your nutrition, you have a lot of intention there around making sure that you're safe to be stressed, essentially, and can recover from the stress. Same with your sleep. And so you've got, number one, clear intentions. Two, you've been operating under or you have a lot of experience operating with discipline in each of those categories. And you have spent time in the past with what I'll call the wax on, wax off phase, paint the fence. Like, I think to get to the point of physical freedom that you're at, you have to have experience doing the basics and the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And you've used lots of different tools, whether it's weighing and measuring, macros, hand portion sizes, very strict regimented programs, more structured conditioning programs, or experimenting with different amounts of volume in each that have given you perspective and context when you are making these decisions. So a common argument for is, pursuing, strength or constantly adding weight is that, well, you don't know what's heavy or you don't know what's hard. But you've reached a point in your life where you've earned the right and respect. You know what heavy is. You've deadlifted over 400 pounds. You've squat 300 pounds. You've benched close to 200 pounds.
200. I've done 200, just for the record.
You've benched 200 pounds. This is not a question of whether you need to be disciplined because you are not hardcore enough. Like, that, just chill out, people. Like,
yeah.
Nikki is strong and has been doing this for over a decade, maybe 2 decades of working out. So set that aside, or the discipline equals freedom crowd. Great. Yes, we need discipline, but you have that. You have that in the form of consistency and experience making these decisions over a long period of time that allow you to maintain a base level of consistent habits that then give you 10, 20, 15% buffer on
wiggle room
where you get to go have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, what I see is that you've built this baseline. We talk a lot about having that baseline to fall back on. You've got this baseline that you know how to fall back on while still giving you the physical freedom to go have fun, enjoy your life, try something different outside the gym. I went skiing, last weekend, and you know what? That's probably going to affect my squats today, but I don't care because I want to go enjoy skiing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to still squat. So I'll have the discipline to keep showing up and go squat and support my strength training. But I'm not going to avoid having fun or doing fun things with my physical body, or I'm not going to deprive myself of enjoying Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or, holiday cookies or what have you, or a beer during the football game or 4.
But like we've talked about, we've gotten to times where it's just like, this fun that I was having is no longer fun. I don't feel good from this fun anymore.
I have just hit that. I would say, there's a little bit more. So I would say another piece that I recognize is that you have a subjective sense of where those edges are, and then you are able to modify your behavior
Right.
at will, which I think is a component of physical freedom, is to be able to recognize where you're at without judgment and change your behavior to go the direction that you want to go.
Yeah, totally. No one's going to do it for me but me. It's like, it's great to have that personal responsibility because I know I can do things that will work.
And it's not because, I'm bad or I failed or I didn't do this or that. It's no, I chose to do X for a while. Now I feel this way. And I know that when I feel that way, I need to do this other set of behaviors. That to me is like the hallmark of physical freedom.
Yeah. To me, like when you were talking about what freedom means earlier, it means I get what I want. And I feel very driven by that. Like for in the financial world, for me, that means like getting something that I want doesn't mean that I go into debt for months. It doesn't mean that I have a rolling credit card bill. It means that I get what I want and I don't owe anybody after that. And physically, it means like, if I want to feel this way in a swimsuit, I'm going to do that. And I know how to do it. And if I want to enjoy my time on this trip, eating all this food, I'm going to enjoy that because that's what I want. And it's the ability to get what I want and say no to the things that I don't want that come with that, or you get to choose and you get to do it.
It's interesting hearing you talk about that, because what stands out to me is that the common thread is ownership of your behaviors over a long period of time to get what you want. Because the difference you just said there is you're going to get what you want financially, but it's not going to be on a credit card, meaning that probably means you're not going to just go get it today, unless you already saved up for it and you've got the cash sitting on hand, which, might be the case. But like, you might have something you want, but you're not going to be able to get it. You're going to have to delay that action until such a point where you have the means to do it. Or you're going to live your life in a way in which you always have the means to be able to get whatever you want, whenever you want. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the ideal state, if you could make your cost of living zero, or if you can make your income infinitely high, then time is basically eliminated as a variable. But
yeah,
for most people, myself included, I would think yourself as well, you can always get what you want. You just need the time and the ability to take ownership and to align your behaviors with that objective.
Yeah, which is so bang on with what we do with training and eating. Is There are behaviors and there's time. You need both of those things.
But it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to be within enough of a range of discipline that you buy yourself the freedom to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah. I did an interview for a podcast. The podcast is called Strong Not Starving. I highly recommend his content. He has a great Instagram. His podcast is also really great. And he totally speaks to the same message. It's just like, you can't be a slave to optimal. When you're always in a frenzy to lose weight, you don't have freedom either because you can never get what you actually want.
That's right.
And he did a really funny Instagram reel of the same person is like talking to themselves, but they're two different characters. And one was like this guy who's just like, all right, we are going to look like Chris Hemsworth. We're going to have 1 million abs all the time. And then the reality guy was just like, is that what you really want? What if grandma makes a delicious cake? And he's like, grandma can't come with us in this future. It's like such a good example of, when you go for this extreme, what does that actually look like over the long run? Like, what are those choices over and over and over?
Same with strength. Squat a certain weight or deadlift a certain weight now.
Yeah, now.
And I'm just going to perfectly align myself to do that now. And it's like, or in 2 months or whatever. No, like, it's just.
Yeah, you also set yourself up to be really disappointed because there are some things that are going to be out of your control. It's brutal.
It's the equivalent of a get-rich-quick scheme. It doesn't work. I mean, it might work for a little while, or you might get lucky and pull it off, but it's not going to work in the long run.
Yeah.
we've seen so many examples where even within our own ranks, people have been all bought into one extreme or the other, and they got there and they hit the big number, and then
what?
Life catches up. If you've been pushing your body weight over in excess for years and years and years and years on end, there's going to be a consequence eventually. And I'm not trying to like body shame or say that, hell, I'm sitting here at 250 pounds. Okay. That's probably a little bit heavy, and
in your cozy era.
I am in my cozy, fall Christmas season era, but there will be a time where I'm going to take ownership of enjoying that right now, actually.
Right. Yeah.
And I also take ownership of the fact that I think starting in January, we're going to change our baseline habits a little bit more.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, just to put this in context, I'm not saying everybody needs to be 180 pound, 6'1" person. There are probably listeners out there that we would love to encourage to gain some weight. However, I think if we can look at it through the lens of physical freedom, we will get to a better answer.
Yeah. You get to enjoy what you're doing. I think that's a really important component of our lives.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it. Well, I love that thought nugget. Thanks for sharing that with us all. I think it's really good because it makes such sense for me financially, and it's fun to see that in action with our physical state and kind of come up with some more structure about how to create that for other people.
I had one last piece I wanted to add in there that I knew I was forgetting one thing, but the element of financial freedom that is unfortunately a scarce resource for us all that needs to be leveraged most, which is time and compound interest, also has the same effect on our physical freedom. Time and compound interest of our habits, our incremental habits, I think is the analogy there, that with financial freedom and investment, sooner that you can start taking advantage of compound interest, and the longer that you can take advantage of compound interest, the more your investments are going to grow. The same is true with your physical habits. The longer that you can be making and investing in your incremental physical habits over a long period of time, the sooner you will get to physical freedom. So, big asterisk on all of this physical freedom is that, like we talked about, for you to be able to get there, you had to go through a lot of trial and error, a lot of coaching, and a lot of training, and a lot of nutrition strategies. And you'd probably forgotten more than you
probably
than you know.
I'm kind of goldfishy sometimes.
And that's all accessible as a coach. Again, hate to throw in a little salesy pitch at the end, but I was just thinking about this let's shift to skiing. I need to hire a skiing coach because I feel like I've just become an intermediate skier where I go up, I can get around, I can get up and down the mountain, I can have fun, but there are these edges that I hit where I'm just like, I don't know how to deal with this situation. And sometimes I can kind of figure it out, but I don't even know what I'm doing right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It totally feels like being an intermediate lifter who's made some gains, but now they're kind of stuck. They're leveling out and they don't even know if they're working on the right thing. That's what I feel like when I'm skiing. I need to go get a coach. And if there's anybody out there listening and doesn't know how to be physically free, I would say you need a Barbell Logic coach. So where do they go, Nikki?
If you want to see what that's like, go to barbelllogic.com/experience. We'd love to have a call with you. And we love answering questions on that call. So if you have lifts for us to look at, we'll give you a way to submit videos to us. If you have questions about your programming, if you have questions about your nutrition, that's what we're here for. So barbelllogic.com/experience. We would love to help.
If anybody listening out there is a ski instructor who wants to become a turnkey coach, ski instructor, asynchronous coach,
yes.
email me, ajackson@barbell-logic.com, because I'm looking for you and I want to beta test Turnkey Coach as a ski coach platform. So
can't wait to hear how that goes.
I'll put the self-filming GoPro on my back and throw myself down the mountain.
Love it. Awesome. We will all look forward to that video. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be here next week with Beast Overburdened.
Bye-bye.